all, I'd like to welcome all the guests that have attended the Veterans in Politics Gala Ball. And our MC, who's going to be Brian Shapiro, tonight will be acknowledging, the judicial candidates and the donators. Excuse me. I'd like to take this time personally to thank Michael Gaughan. I've known Michael for a long time, and he graciously donated this ballroom to us, which we certainly appreciate. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Andre Agassi, who's been involved with with the Veterans in Politics organization for the last 3 years now. And whenever he gets involved, the events are successful. And also County Commissioner Jim Gibson. Unfortunately, he's not here tonight, but he donated his table that he purchased a few months ago. Regarding the Master of Ceremonies, Brian Shapiro, Brian did this for us 2 years ago, and we certainly appreciate everything that he's done. He's outstanding. Anything we ask of him, he always gets involved with it. Just want to let you know a brief background on Brian. He's going to be starting a new show on February 21st on KHSP 1400 from noon to 2. And the new show is going to be called Pushing the Limits. He has been the #1 talk show radio host for the last 8 years. Brian has been on the air in Las Vegas for 20 years. And without further ado, I'd like to bring up Brian Shapiro onto the stage.
All right, how's everybody doing today? Good? Ready to eat? I'm pretty hungry too. Anyway, it's an honor to be here. I hosted this a couple of years ago. And Robert and Steve are great. Anytime it's about our veterans, every day I wake up in the morning and I do a radio show. And I thank all the brave men and women in uniform who risk their life and risk it all. So people like me can have the freedom to do a radio show. I never forget that. And we're going to have a fun night tonight. We got a comedian coming up here. We got some very special guest speakers. And this is all about our veterans, raising money. So I just want to thank all of you for being here. And it's certainly an honor, and I'm humbled to be able to be here to help be the Master of Ceremonies today.
Sorry David Jockman is not here today, but Steve Sampson is there. Could everybody rise, please? Lord, thank you for being here today. Watch over this group and make sure that everybody goes home safe. In the name of God, amen.
Now I'd like to introduce the Rancho High School ROTC presenting the colors, and Jesse Long, Clark County Republican Party Chairman, singing the national anthem.
Lord, heart.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the and the home of the brave.
Okay. Hold. Right leg. Hold. Forward. Hold. Up. Over. Up. Order. Hold. Over. Over.
All right, thank you very much. Good job. All right, you may be seated. We're not going to make you stand up all night, don't worry. Coming up next, Van Miller presenting a video production of Veterans in Politics.
Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas with Veterans in Politics. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas with Veterans in Politics. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas with Veterans in Politics. Bill is a United States Air Force veteran. Jesse Law, he's a candidate for the Clark County Republican Party chairman. Steve Wilson, he's the Clark County District Attorney. Michelle Fury, a former Nevada Assemblywoman, and she's a candidate for Nevada's gubernatorial race. Brian Shapiro, he's the host of Vegas Take Back. Bob Beers, Max Miller, Mike Rowe, Alan Bigelow, Tony Grady, Alan Littman, mayor of Mesquite, Clark Bossert, Destiny LaRossi.
I was a criminal. The criminal life had appealed to me. And the first time I had got arrested when I was 15. And then 16, I was doing hard drugs.
So you already sound like a Democrat.
Stan Hite, he's a candidate for Clark County Sheriff. Tony Grady, we kidnapped him from the Nevada State Republican Party Central Committee meeting. Van Miller is a documentary filmmaker.
I'm the mother of two beautiful young ladies that are married with children.
Saw them, beautiful family.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
They all got their AKs.
Yeah, they all got their AKs.
I don't like Sisolak. When we needed him the most, he failed us.
I'm pissed off about a lot of things as usual. But
Taxes, girls,
yeah.
Corona.
Oh yeah.
Mayor Littman drove all the way from Mesquite, which was a 2-hour drive or something like that.
No, hour and 15 minutes.
Hour and 15 minutes because he speed, NHP didn't catch him. And he has total control of the Mesquite police, so they didn't give him a ticket either.
Worked for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department for a little over 30 years.
Okay.
Retired back in 2008, was comfortable, had a good retirement, loved the police department, it's taking care of me. But then this last election came up, with all the fraud, and it just, like you said, I've been talking to the TV, but it's like, I got to get off my couch. I got to do something because it's really getting bad. They are taking away our constitutional liberties, and that's basically my whole campaign.
The Democratic governors kind of turned into dictators, and there's a lot of people that die from the lockdowns. And I don't know if you guys talk about this on your podcast a lot, but we have added 100,000 deaths between suicides and overdoses this year.
I got this tunnel vision where even food becomes a little less important. I'm running this like there's no tomorrow.
The media, they are my biggest fans. And when I say the media is my biggest fans, because they love to hate me, they just cannot wait to try to do like a gotcha, and she said this and she said that.
I like to talk about a little history. When I took over the DA's office almost 10 years ago, my predecessor was filing almost 20 death penalty notices a year.
He's trying to kill everybody.
Well, you know, he had a different philosophy.
Our police backed us, and
that's why you got away with that speeding ticket coming down.
Yeah, literally. No, I had a city car. That helps.
Yeah. When my daughter was in her mama's belly, it became important to me to fight for their freedom.
There's a lot of candidates and a lot of elected officials that when they're running for office, they pander, they say whatever. I ain't pandering.
Right.
We're gonna fight together. We're gonna fight for our state. We're gonna fight for the people.
But the way I look at it is, soon as you get elected, I just honestly think that there's a group of people in each area that kind of pulls you back and goes, you know, everything you said on the campaign trail sounds really good, but this is actually how it works.
I had managed with my discussion and voting as a member of the city council to steer them out of taking people's stuff. The city of Las Vegas.
Like a bully?
Yeah. City of Las Vegas has a very long history of taking people's stuff.
I get a lot, well, what are we doing for the Hispanic and Latino or African American or Asian American or veteran? And you, those communities, if they're gonna be talked to, say, August of an election year, like they ever mattered in the, I mean, they're gonna be offended.
Right.
So we really have to reprioritize what kind of people we wanna be too. Because I'm not gonna be the guy that goes and knocks a door in a community that I'm gonna feel like I'm using them. I mean, we have to be the ball.
When we were young men, they took a family's drugstore down at like 4th and Fremont because the city council had a vision. And that vision turned into Neonopolis, probably still the most embarrassing commercial property on Fremont Street.
What's been missing in these things? Vision and leadership. Vision and leadership. Every single time bad behavior comes around because there's no vision, there's no plan, there's no leadership. They exist for the sake of meetings. The new sport is to defeat each other. And you know what? That ain't fun anymore.
You know, when you guys asked me to do the Veterans in Politics event a couple of years ago, I was glad to do it and I'm glad to do it again this upcoming in a few months. It's, you know, if not for our veterans, I wouldn't be able to have the opportunity to be an idiot on the radio every day. So, you know, that's the truth of it.
Guest Wayne Conte, who is a Vietnam veteran, served their country in combat, and he got screwed royally in the Clark County family court system by family court judge Sandra Pomerantz.
You know, you walk into a McDonald's, all the security guards got cameras. Everywhere you go, you got cameras. But for some reason, family courts, you can't have a jury and you can't have cameras. And they always fall on the same thing. It's for
a constitutional violation.
Constitutional violation. They say, oh, it's because we want to protect the children involved, which
they're trying to hide their bad behavior.
They're trying to hide, I would say, not even bad behavior. They're trying to hide grossly criminal behavior.
Yes. A friend of mine that's in this situation, and it was awful that they're not looking after the most vulnerable and the weak and the most unable to protect themselves among us being, you know, our children and our society. And it's sick that they're saying, all right, how can we get the most money out of this? How can we drag it out? How can we give we're going to give the worst parent the most rights so that the rich parent and the better parent will fight in court.
Man, I thought I was the only one saying that.
We also, with the nonprofit that my husband and I set up all those years ago, we go into 5th grade classrooms and we talk to kids about the value and the importance of our Constitution, the founding of this country, and hopefully plant some seeds of what I say, seeds of liberty, where they'll have some basic understanding about why this country is what it is.
And one thing I don't understand is family court is a civil court. If they're a civil court, why are they having contempt procedures in that court?
The people in this country, in those 13 colonies, understood what freedom and liberty meant.
And many, many times I've seen people in handcuffs come out of family court. Yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is not a criminal court. It's not a criminal court. Those judges don't have a right to lock you up because it's not a criminal court.
We got people that are in the classroom that are not teaching kids the truth. There's an agenda behind the things that they are learning, and it's the agenda that the system is putting forward. So we have kids that are being taught to hate our country.
When the Veterans in Politics first started in the family court and court observing and protesting against the corruption in family court and created a YouTube channel and showing the public and educating them what actually goes on in the courtroom, a lot of people, including judges, said to me, why is Veterans in Politics involved in family court?
Good question.
And here we are.
And here we are.
A 5-tour Vietnam veteran, 20 years plus, got screwed over in family court. That's why we're involved in the family court.
When I took over, I committed to the county commissioners and to this community to reduce that number. And I did. I reduced it to less than 10 notices per year. And more importantly, in the last 2 or 3 years, I think last year we only filed 1 death penalty notice, okay? And our homicide rate is up. We are at about a 20% increase this year to date in homicides. So what
Why is that?
Oh gosh, I think COVID has something to do with it. I think that, there's just a lot of people that are in pain and suffering.
It's my way of getting therapy, is expressing myself on the radio every day. It's like therapy for me.
That's how I look at politics. I get all my anger out by being.
It's good, right?
By being a butthead.
You don't look like a guy that I would want you. I don't think I'd want him to be angry at me.
Yeah.
He looks like the guy that'll walk into a bar and like, okay, I better not mess with that guy because you're a big dude.
Hey, I walk into gay bars and nobody messes.
Well, that's your personal business. That's okay.
So my office is about 750 employees, 160 lawyers. The largest.
What's your budget?
About 500 million.
Oh,
It's the largest law firm in the state of Nevada.
When they're a candidate, they're more humble and gracious, eager to help. And then when they become elected, they lose their civility. They become more arrogant, self-serving, opportunists. Are you going to fall into that? Well, let's what Donald Trump call it? The swamp.
The swamp doesn't live at my house.
I think the organization itself, it's lost its institutional memory as to why it exists.
But I love our country, and I think that if we don't get it right this election cycle, we're going to lose it.
What's your favorite constitution?
Well, obviously, freedom of speech is huge, and the second protects the rest.
This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas with Veterans in Politics. Until next time.
I just want to announce somebody that's here in attendance tonight. We have Miss Nevada in the house. Macy Toole, can you please stand up? Where are you, Macy? Miss Nevada, everybody. Congratulations to Macy. Macy, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. All right, I want to thank some of the sponsors that I'm so grateful. We're all so grateful for all of you, and I just want to name every single one of you and announce. First of all, Michael Gahn. I love the South Point. Obviously, he's the owner here, and this has always been one of my favorite local casinos in Las Vegas. He and his staff do such a great job here. Thank you, Michael. Clark County Commissioner Jim Gibson. Assemblywoman Annie Black. Of course, the Andre Agassi Foundation. I grew up idolizing Andre Agassi as the tennis player, but as I got older, I now idolize him for what he's done in this community. He and his wife, Steffi Graff, have done so many wonderful things in the city of Las Vegas. So thank you, Andre, the Andre Agassi Foundation, Clark County Recorder Debbie Conway, Clark County District Attorney Steve Olson, Clark County Commissioner Marilyn Kirkpatrick, Jerry Willick, Dr. Arnold Stock, founder of Veterans Village, Clark County Assessor Brianna Johnson, former Congresswoman Shelley Berkeley, Susan McComb, Las Vegas Justice of the Peace, Sam Peters, Congressional Candidate Cynthia Lewing, Las Vegas Municipal Court Judge, Amy Cellini, Las Vegas Justice of the Peace, George Harris, General Manager for her hotel, Frank Sullivan, Clark County District Court Judge, also Gloria O'Malley, Clark County District Court Judge, Pamela Aquinas Brown, North Las Vegas City Councilwoman, Burt Brown, Las Vegas Justice of the Peace, also Sue E. Bailey, Clark County District Court Judge, Deidre Butler, Clark County District Court Judge, Jeffrey Black, Developmental Specialist at Child Haven, Mark Amaday, U.S. Congressman representing District 2, Ed Bridges, U.S. Air Force, Cedric Kearns, Las Vegas Municipal Court Judge, Leonard Cardinale, former North Las Vegas Police Lieutenant, Dr. Lynn Kahn, former U.S. presidential candidate, and flowers by Michelle. Thank you again. A round of applause to all of our sponsors, please. Thank you so much. I also now want to take this opportunity, if we can have all of our veterans please stand up and be recognized. I would appreciate that. Please stand up. Thank you so much for your service and what you've done for this country. Thank you so much. Thank you. You may be seated. We're all here because of you, so thank you so much. Also want to announce some of the elected officials and candidates. Please stand as I call your name. Just had the opportunity to meet Alan Bigelow, candidate for Las Vegas City Council Ward 2. Alan, please stand up. Thank you for being here. Richard Scotty, former Clark County District Court Judge and candidate for Nevada's Secretary of State. Richard, if you could please stand up. Is Richard here? No? Where are you, Richard? Okay, Richard's on his way. Stephen Jones, former Clark County District Court Judge for Family Division. Van Miller, candidate for Assembly District 13. Rhonda Logman Kennedy, candidate for Congress in California's 26th District. Sherelle Mendenhall, candidate for U.S. Senate. Matt Miller, Lieutenant Governor candidate. John Lee, North Las Vegas Mayor and candidate for Nevada Governor. Jason Goodell, candidate for North Las Vegas Justice of the Peace. Also Bob Beers, former Las Vegas City Councilman and candidate for Las Vegas Councilman Ward 4. Michelle Fiore, Las Vegas City Councilwoman and Nevada Governor candidate. Ron Guillen, Assembly candidate District 21. Jenny Vincent, candidate for Assembly District 36. Kate Williams, Clark County Board Trustee. Thank you all very much for being here. We appreciate all of you and good luck. I want to talk now, or I should say introduce our guest speaker, one of the few we have today, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Richmond. Michael?
I have to bend over here. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for this opportunity to speak here tonight. Does this come out? I'll slouch. Thank you for me, not only for me, but also for the invitation to my cadets over here. They get a kick out of doing what they do, and I get a kick out of watching them get a kick out of it, so it's all good, and thank you for the invitation. It's funny, I was sitting there eating the salad, and I'm like, should I change the topic of what I was going to talk about? So I'll just poll the room. Because when Robert invited me, I said, Robert, what should I talk about? He said, whatever you want, as long as it's not political. Okay. And so I had a thing that I'd been rehearsing in my head a long time, but then I saw your video, and I thought, maybe I should talk about this other thing. I'll ask you. The thing that I was going to talk about was my experience as a public affairs officer in the military for many years, and the shenanigans I had to deal with dealing with the news media. Got some stories there. Or, looking at your video, I'm like, oh, I could talk about sort of the state of constitutional understanding in the public school system and such. And I just don't know where to go with this. So I would like to hear awful stories about the news media. Oh, gee. Who wants to hear about the Constitution? I think the news media has it. Wait a second. Are there any news media out here tonight? Well, okay, but I'm talking, you know. I don't have a problem with you. Okay, but I will be fair and objective. Just a point of clarification, I'm a retiree. I don't know if you all know how this works, but junior ROTC instructor is a retiree. That's the high school level ROTC. At the university level, where there's ROTC, no J, no junior, that's the commissioning programs, and those people are active duty. Now I did that while I was on active duty, loved it, thought, I wonder what that's like at the high school level afterwards, and I love that too. And I've been at it for 14 school years now, so I guess I kind of like it, and I'm sticking with it. But while I was on the active duty, as I alluded to, 22 out of my nearly 25 years was as a public affairs officer. Public affairs is where you find the media relations requirement or activity, and that's where you find the interaction with journalists and such. And I like to refer to them as balloon folders. That's kind of a euphemism. I came up on my own. Journalists are balloon folders. Well, why would that be? Because just as a clown takes the balloon and makes it a straight, skinny balloon, they can just shape that thing any way they want to, right? Shape it into a hat, shape it into a horn, shape it into a kitty cat, shape it into a sword. the news media, my experience with the news media, present company excluded, they do the same thing. And I will say it almost doesn't matter what you tell them. They're going to shape it the way they want. And I can take the word almost out of that sentence. It doesn't matter what you tell them. They're either going to use it or not use it, twist it or not twist it, just like the balloon folder. So I know I only have 15 minutes. I could tell several stories. I'll tell one, I think, that demonstrates the balloon folding. This is my favorite story, and it's my worst story, if you will. So it goes like this. When I was doing this business in Los Angeles Air Force Base, California. Yes, there is a Los Angeles Air Force Base, California. There's no airplanes there, there's no runways. Anybody ever been there? Oh my gosh, you know what it is, the Space and Missile Systems Center. All it is basically engineers and contractors, and their job is to design and then acquire satellite systems and the rockets that put them up there and the ground stations. It's very pointy-headed stuff, and I don't really understand it. But it was a fun place to be stationed as a single lieutenant with a lot of money to burn at the time. But I digress. So one day, there I am doing media relations, and my phone rings at 10 minutes to 5, and it's Ralph Artabadian from the Los Angeles Times. Does anybody know Ralph Artabadian from the Los Angeles Times? I hope not. So Ralph wants to know, what's the ballast on the Milstar satellite? Now, I need some clarification on that question, because where I grew up in Wisconsin, snow, ice, ballast was the term that we used for the big boxes of sand that a lot of people had in the back of their cars above the rear axle. Weight to go through the sand and the ice. And then you had sand there to sprinkle if you needed extra traction, right? Is that what he's asking me? What is ballast doing on a satellite? Or is he asking me, what's it made of? So I say, Ralph, I'm not sure what you're asking me. And I tell my little story about sand in Wisconsin and all this kind of stuff. And he goes, oh, no, I know the purpose of ballast on a satellite. I just need to know what it's made of, what it's composed of. I say, okay, let me find out for you, and I'll get right back to you. Now, some of you might know this, especially those of you who raise your hand. The purpose of ballast on a satellite, and I didn't know this until I worked there, is to get it to spin perfectly, smoothly, right? They go around the Earth, but they spin. And they have to spin perfectly smoothly, and that means perfectly balanced, right? Hence, ballast goes on to balance it out for the spinning. So I hang up, I say, Ralph, when do you need it? What's your phone number? He goes, well, I need it right away. You know, it's for a story tomorrow morning. I hang up the phone, and I'm calling over to the Milstar program office, and I already know that he's playing me, that he's doing media dirty tricks 101 on me. Does anybody see what he's doing? What time did I say he called me? 10 minutes to 5 in Los Angeles. He knows darn well half the base is already on their way home fighting traffic. And this is like, he's doing that thing where they call late in the day, hoping you don't get an answer to them so that tomorrow the story can say, and officials at Los Angeles Air Force Base failed to meet their deadline to tell us blah, blah, blah. Have you seen that ever in a news story or heard it on TV? It's Media Dirty Tricks 101, and I know he's playing that on me already because of what he called. So I called over to the Milstar office and get the general on the phone. General, I need this information, need it quick, blah, blah, blah. And to his credit, in 10 minutes, he's got a little paper stacked for me. And it turns out that the ballast on the Milstar satellite is a series of aluminum cubes, a whole bunch of them. He gave me the number, of various weights and sizes, and they are positioned around the bus of the satellite and inside the bus of the satellite so that it does what? Spins smoothly. All right. So thank you, General. I got my information. Pick up the phone, call Ralph Artabadian, and I look up at the clock on the wall. It's 2.5 minutes after 5. Answering machine. It worked. Now I'm thinking, is he really not there? I'm assuming he's just letting that phone ring, hands, finger laced behind his head with his ankles crossed. It's too late. I didn't get the information to him. Dirty Tricks 101 worked. But I'm not terribly concerned. How could this possibly go wrong? So I leave my information on his answering machine, go home, eat a meal, go to the gym, watch some TV, go to bed. Don't think much more about it. At 3 a.m. my phone rings. And it's a reporter I knew from Florida, from having gone out to the Kennedy Space Center a number of times to work space launches out there. And he's like, Mike, I'm sorry to wake you up. It's, Steve whatever from the Jupiter Times. Have you read the Los Angeles Times yet this morning? No, I haven't. It's 3 in the morning. Why are you asking me this? Well, there's a story in there that written by Ralph Vardabadian saying that the ballast on the Milstar satellite is sand. That's not right, is it? I'm like, no, that's not right. And the guys out who work the space beat out in Florida, they know space operations because they're right there at the Kennedy Space Center, right? And so this didn't smell right to him. And he's calling me to try to correct the record at 3 in the morning LA time. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So now I'm wide awake and I'm going to find the earliest copy of the LA Times that I can get, and I buy a stack. And when I'm standing outside the general's door when he comes to work, you gotta see this. And sure enough, banner headline on top of this front of this business section, ridiculous headline about tax dollars waste sandboxes in space, $1 million of this farcical. The Air Force is shooting tons of sand into space. I'm like, you've got to be kidding. This is some serious balloon folding, right? To the general's credit, he didn't kill me. He understood what was going on there. But he was furious, and I get Ralph on the phone. Ralph, where did you get sand? You didn't get that from me, did you? He's like, no, I got 2 anonymous sources in the Pentagon. This is what the balloon folders do. And the story is right there in front of me. He's got 2 anonymous sources in the Pentagon, and that's what they do. They want to tell a narrative. They want to fold that balloon. They will make up sources, and you can't get them. And they know you can't get them. Because there's no way to run that to ground. He never has to testify, yes, I lied, that sort of thing. He dug in his heels, and I said to him, well, Ralph, you better get a couple of new sources. Because whoever you're claiming to talk to doesn't know a thing about space operations. Sand is not stable enough to be ballast on a satellite. And you know how you can tell when someone is smirking, even when you can't see their face? I'm getting that vibe from Ralph. He's just smirking away, and there's nothing I can do, and he knows about it. He's folded his balloon the way he wanted to, and he's getting away with it. So my 1-star calls his 3-star, 3-star calls the LA Times and demands a correction, and miraculously we got a correction. 3 weeks later, 2 sentences about 1 inch tall, and this is the way the correction reads, something like this. 3 weeks ago we reported that, blah, 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 repeat the lie, period. The Air Force now says it's aluminum. As opposed to, we lied, we made up sources, we played Dirty Tricks 101, and they get away with it. So it's still out there. Now, it doesn't end there because 2 years go by, and I'm no longer at Los Angeles Air Force Base. Now I'm at Tucson Air Force Base doing media relations there, and I get a call from a buddy of mine from that office back in Los Angeles, a guy I hadn't talked to. And he goes, hey Mike, it's Ed, how's it going? Well, Ed, what's going on? He's still in the LA PA office. And he goes, and this is 2 years later, have you read the latest edition of Playboy magazine yet? I said, no Ed, I have not, and I'm wondering why you were asking me that. And he says, well, there's a book review in there. They're reviewing a book called Stupid Government Tricks. And it's a book all about how the government wastes taxpayers' dollars, and they pull an excerpt out of the book and they stick it in the movie, in the book review, and it says, in 2000 whenever it was, the Los Angeles Times reported that, a ton of sand, $1 million in sandboxes in space. They repeat the lie. And like I say, it never dies. I just checked on Amazon about 3 or 4 days ago. Is that book still out there? It's still out there. If you want to pull it up right now, Amazon, Stupid Government Tricks, you can see whatever's in there. And if you buy that book, I guess I wouldn't recommend it. Just be cautious of what you're reading. Now, the book review did not lie. The book review just said what the book was saying. The book didn't lie. The book just said the LA Times reported that. There's 2 people telling the truth. And the LA Times put that folded balloon out there for everybody to see, and it lives on. And so that's one of several stories I could tell, and I would say anybody who's ever been in the public affairs career field, in the rear with the gear, as you would, if you will, I'm sure they could tell 1,000 stories and I could tell several more myself, and I'm thinking I should write a book called Stupid Media Tricks. Get all my friends together and tell those stories. I think I probably had 15 minutes or right time. We can tell more, but I won't because we want to eat. I will close with this. Being in the rear with the gear, the public affairs guy, of course I never got a Purple Heart for doing what I was doing, but I sure got a Black Heart because when I entered that career field as a young, naive 21, 22-year-old back in the day as an enlisted guy, I believed, right? And all of us who are maybe my age or around my age, that's what we all believed, right? We were taught to believe that. The news media, journalists, they're all these paragons of balance and truth and unbiased, and they're critical to this democracy of ours because they tell the unfiltered truth, and they tell both sides of the story, and you, the voters, make up your mind that it's critical for our democracy. And I just saying that to you right now, I'm getting a little queasy in my stomach. Because here we are in the era of fake news, fake news, fake news. And so all of my stuff happened well before we started hearing that term, which I think Barack Obama is credited with saying it a few times about Fox News, and then Donald Trump said it a lot about the media. So now it's out there in the lexicon, fake news. And we're all kind of savvy about that now. Back in the day, we weren't all that savvy about it, but I think it was going on, and it's probably worse now than it's ever been. But I gotta tell you, I'm thoroughly enjoying myself watching the collapse of the legacy media. It's fun to watch as they scramble and as their viewership just collapses because it's a purgatory of their own making. And I'm enjoying the show in that regard. And I'm probably out of time. I'm sure I'm over time. Robert's back there with a stopwatch on. So I'm telling that one story. I'll be at the bar later if you want to hear more. And that's all I have for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Thank you for your service to this country. For the record, I've been called fake news before also, so I guess I'm a part of that. Anyway, by the way, I know we're going to be doing this auction stuff a little bit later on, but I got to say there's some really cool stuff back there. For me personally, I saw a great John Lennon piece back there, Tiger Woods, signed memorabilia, Mike Tyson. There's so much cool stuff back there. If you have a moment, check it out. And we're going to be going over all those items a little bit later, but really, really cool stuff. Also, I want to announce Stavros Anthony here. He is the Las Vegas City Councilman, and he's running for Lieutenant Governor. Stavros, if you could please stand up. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Good to see you. All right, coming up next, it's time to laugh. Are you guys ready to laugh? We have a professional comedian coming up here on stage, a very, very funny guy, Scott Bichette. Scott, come on up here.
Well, hey everybody, how we doing, guys? We having fun tonight? First, give it up for Steve and for Dr. Bedoff. Give it up for them. I could say after dealing with these guys for a month, I could do a whole 15-minute set just making fun of Steve and Dr. Bedoff, but I won't say that, no. I appreciate you guys having me here, and I want to tell you sincerely, after 20 years in Congress, it's nice to be around so many hard-working overachievers with such a strong work ethic. I mean, really, I have to ask, what's it like? I wouldn't know. When I worked in the Senate, my bosses would get on me about cutting it close. Aren't you cutting it close with punctuality? Aren't you cutting it a little close there, Scotty? And I would be subordinate in front of our coworkers. Later on in the day, I'd go up to them in private. I'd make sure no one was around. And I would say, guys, I was almost 2 minutes early. You're welcome. But what do you want from me? Well, thank you. Don't laugh all at once again. Thank you very much. Now, I must say another reason it's exciting to be back here in Las Vegas is because it's still warm in the wintertime. It's still warm here in Las Vegas. Now, you might think it's cold, but I tell you what, you don't know cold until you are stuck in the basement of the Capitol on a cold winter morning, huddled around CNN reporters for warmth. You know it's true. Say ouch if you can't say amen, because Stevie Wonder could see that. And you think I'm kidding? You try huddling around Dana Bash for warmth. You'd have better luck trying to find a buffet in North Korea. And I ought to know, as a fat person, I can sniff out buffets like Chris Christie at the Golden Corral. It comes very natural to us fat people. So they asked me to last 15 minutes, and I told them, quite self-assuredly, 15 minutes? I had relationships that lasted longer than that. I could last 15 minutes. Working in the Senate, you meet everybody, and you end up meeting a lot of interesting people. I won't give you a list of all my ex-girlfriends, but it's not limited to, but including a daughter of the president's former senior foreign policy advisor, Paul McCartney's immediate family, self-made Russian millionaire. And I don't know what they saw in me, but the funny part is, I remember one particular woman who was so beautiful, and I had to break up with her. And I literally had senators, half the Washington press corps, my Senate bosses coming up to me, Scotty, I'm so sorry she broke up with you. I heard about the breakup, I'm really sorry. And I had broken up with her, but my grandmother raised me never air your dirty laundry, ever. So I was like, I'm not gonna say anything specific, but how bad does it have to be with estrogenical treachery and instability if I'm this fat and I had to break up with someone that hot? Now how bad do you think it had to get, okay? So let me tell you, 20 years, I literally, from the day that I stood up to Jesse Jackson, got invited to every damn Congressional Black Caucus, fundraiser, DNC, embassy party. Sometimes we would have 3 events. 3 events with an open bar, okay? And like each event was a couple hours, and it's an open bar, and that's what we would call Tuesday. Yes, we make the Kennedys look like Mormons in abstinence and temperance convention. So I want you to know, in all seriousness, I've made quite a sacrifice for you guys tonight. Being larger than life is my natural state. I have been in this town now for almost 48 hours, and I have not had one drink, one smoke, no gambling, no women, no partying. That way, my fat face could be shining, and I could be my very best to perform. So that's my idea of sacrifice. 48 hours, no drinking, no women, no partying. So as soon as I finish this set, we're gonna light them up like it's spring break with the Kennedys. It's like it's spring break, but no Chappaquiddick, okay? Nobody's driving. I want to tell you guys, I want to clear up a misconception. A lot of my friends in real America, in the red states, and hardworking people like yourselves, sometimes there's a terrible misconception. Normal people across America think that those of us that work on the inside were a bunch of stuck-up, conceited, inside the beltway snobs. And I want you to know, nothing could be further from the truth, and I can prove it to you. I still remember my first fundraiser back when I was a Democrat. It was the DNC. Don't tell anybody, but it's a true story. And people were so accepting. They were so accepting, they even accepted MasterCard, they accepted Visa, they even accepted American Express. What could possibly be more accepting than that? And speaking of accepting, the one lesson that I've learned, and now I'm actually being serious, the best lesson I ever learned for 20 years in the Senate. At the end of the day, it doesn't make a damn bit of difference how much you think you know, or how good looking you are, or in my case, even how fat you are. People will always respect you for who you know. That's right, who you know, that's the only damn thing that matters. And those of us that get it have a happy life, and those of us that don't, it's not really a fun existence. Speaking of who you know, I was going to tell you my Dave Chappelle story, but I thought there's nothing worse than a fat, self-absorbed stand-up comedian who stands here name-dropping people right and left. I can't stand it when people do that. So I'm not going to tell you my Dave Chappelle story. No. Out of respect for the former Democratic leader, since we are in Las Vegas, I'm going to do a little tribute to Harry Reid. Very classy, respectful tribute, true story. I was stationed outside. I know everyone doesn't love him, especially Mitt Romney, but I gotta say personally, he was very kind to me. And I'm loyal if nothing else. The late senator was very kind to me. So I'm gonna tell you this brief little story. It was another boring day in the Capitol. I'm stuck there, sitting outside Senator Reid's leadership office, right outside the Democratic cloakroom, 3 feet off the Senate floor. And Senator Reid was usually very mild, very calm, very mild-mannered person. And so I noticed he seemed quite agitated one afternoon. And Chuck Schumer was with him, our current Senate Democratic leader. And he kind of got in Senator Schumer's face. And he said repeatedly, this is his exact words, Senator Reid says to Senator Schumer, Chuck, I told you, I don't want to hear about Amy Schumer. Damn it, Chuck, I'm serious. I don't want to hear another damn word about Amy Schumer. And as he walks out, I'm just sitting there on my ass like a government worker, you know? That's what I'm doing, I'm sitting there on my bones. And Senator Reid, you can't say I'm not honest, Senator Reid looks up to me, he admitted it, oh my God, he admitted it. Senator Reid looks up to me, and he points to me and he says, Chuck, we have our own comedian right here. This is Scott. See, we have our own comedian, this is the Senate comedian. And Senator Reid points to me with more life and animation than I've ever seen. And he says, Scott, get off your ass. Get up and make us laugh right now, Scott. Get up and make us laugh. I'm a government worker. It's hard enough for me to get off my ass, okay? So I get up, and I look at Senator Reid, who's quite insistent that I have to say something funny. And Schumer looks about as pissed off as words can describe. This is not a happy moment for Senator Schumer. So if I'm funny, then Schumer's gonna hate me. And if I'm not funny, then I'm an even bigger putz. And I'm lucky if I still have a job. So I look at Senator Schumer, I look at Senator Reid, and with all honest authenticity, I lean into them with confidence spontaneously and I say, gentlemen, you must appreciate my position, gentlemen. I'm a fat person. I cannot miss a meal. And I have an 800 credit rating. Now, if I can't miss a meal, and I can't miss a mortgage payment, and I'm dedicated to destroying the political correctness that both of you gentlemen had a hand in creating this cancer in the culture in the first place. Both of you gentlemen had a hand in creating political correctness, and I'm pledged to destroy it. And you want me to be funny? How am I supposed to do that, gentlemen? You tell me. And I swear to God, Harry Reid looks right at me, and he goes, okay, you got one more chance. You got one more chance to be funny. Now say something funny. And he said it with intensity, like Jack Nicholson, you need me on that wall. Harry Reid points to me. Now say something funny. Be funny right now. And I paused, and I thought, well, I better think of something. And I pulled this thought off the top of my head. I looked at Senator Reid with a grin. By the way, I should point out, Senator Reid's there. He's the current Democratic leader at the time. Senator Schumer, the Secret Service agents, the special agents, their staff, the deputy chief of staff. It was like everybody was watching. So not that there was any pressure involved. But I look at Senator Reid with a grin and I say, well, sir, I'll tell you the truth. Just last week I got a call from a friend of mine who was a special agent in the FBI. And he said to me, Scott, we've had reports about your obesity situation. We've had reports that you're getting even fatter. And I said, sir, I respect your professionalism and I respect your authority. But how is it any damn business of the FBI? How is it any damn business how fat I get or not? And the FBI agent said to me, because if your fat ass lose 10 more pounds, if you gain 10 more pounds, we're gonna put your fat ass on the fitness protection program. Boom. And Schumer looks at me like he was pissed off because I was funny, and Harry Reid looks at me with a grin, which was a lot of life. You know, he wasn't always so charismatic, but he looks at me with a grin. And 2 minutes later, I'll never forget, Senator Reid's deputy chief of staff, I hope he sees this, I love this man, Bill Douster, Senator Harry Reid's deputy chief of staff, he comes up to me, he shakes my hand, he gives me his card, and he says, you done good, Scotty. The boss was pleased. You done good. So, that's my little Harry Reid story. A tribute to the Democratic leader, the gentleman, the senator from Searchlight. Rest in peace, Senator Harry Reid. And speaking of who you know, it's okay to clap for Harry Reid. He was a good person. You can clap for Harry Reid. But speaking of who you know, sometimes it doesn't matter who you know, it's what you know. And what I know is right now, George Orwell said the first duty of a responsible man, he must restate the obvious. Could anyone say that we're living up to the sacrifices of my grandparents' generation, the World War II generation? What would General Patton and Winston Churchill say if they were around to see the erosion of our society today? I don't think we're holding up our end of the deal. I actually have friends with young, skinny people. They're called millennials. Because I'm a background actor as well, so you always meet millennials on the set all the time, because Atlanta's the new Hollywood. So I like millennials, but I actually am friends with some millennials who believe that they're oppressed If a Starbucks barista doesn't let them use someone else's credit card, they think they're oppressed. I have millennials who get traumatized if their Uber Eats shows up 2 minutes late. So I created this little skit for you guys. To honor, well really to make fun of our millennials. It's called Millennials at D-Day. Are you ready for it? We've superimposed our super woke, progressive, politically correct, emasculated millennials from modern times. And we've taken them and put them back in time on the landing at Omaha Beach at Normandy at the Battle of D-Day. I now present, ladies and gentlemen, Millennials at D-Day. You're gonna like this. Take that hill now, Styles. What is your major malfunction? I said take that hill. But Sarge, I can't. This MRE isn't gluten-free, Sarge. This MRE isn't gluten-free. What is your major malfunction, Private Pile? I said take that hill right now. I'm gonna court-martial your ass to Leavenworth. But Sarge, all those German bullets, all the smoke, Sarge, all the smoke from the German bullets, those German bullets have triggered my emotional safe space. Yes, well, I found more life on John Kerry's campaign, but thank you for the laughter. Thank you very much. Thank you. So now, I'm going to give you a couple impressions, and then I'll return you back to the quiet workplace environment that you would previously enjoy. When I did comedy for our veterans, several occasions at Walter Reed, I would hang out with and cheer up the Marines. Any Marines in here? Yeah! All right, well, this is for you guys. Now, I give all the credit in the world to the late, great Robin Williams. One thing about me, love me or hate me, I'm nothing but authentic. I give all the credit in the world to the great Robin Williams. And this idea was based on his character from the movie Good Morning Vietnam. I just switched it up to modern times. So if our Marines came from Iraq, I would do this little skit for them. Hey, I'm here from Stars and Stripes magazine. I'm here to interview someone in the field. How do you know who the enemy is if you're in Fallujah, if you're in Anbar province, if you're in Ramadi? How do you know who the enemy is? Well, that's no problem. What we do is we go up to people and we ask them, are you the enemy? And if they say yes, we shoot them. Afghanistan. Anybody from Afghanistan? Anybody saw it? Well, the people at Walter Reed did. And so the Afghanistan problem in this bit would go like this. I pretend to be a reporter from Stars and Stripes magazine. Is it true that we have an opium problem? I'm here from Stars and Stripes in the field. Is it true that we have an opium problem? Well, no, sir, we don't. How can that be? Everyone says there's an opium problem in Afghanistan. Well, it's not a problem because everybody has it. All right, well, you guys, I'd like to say you've been a great audience. No, really, I'd like to say that you've been a great audience. I'd like to say I lost 20 pounds and we had civilian leadership that was worthy of sacrifices, but here we are. So I'm going to close with this. Rodney Dangerfield. Anybody remember Rodney Dangerfield? Okay, now we get some enthusiasm. Finally, you come to life. My God, I thought there was more life in John Kerry's campaign than this audience. So this is Rodney Dangerfield from the movie Easy Money. Remember the movie Easy Money? He closes with these exact words. My mother-in-law, for 20 years I wouldn't kiss her face. I ended up kissing her ass. Thank you very much. Appreciate your service. Thank you all veterans. Now we can party.
All right. Thank you, Scott. I heard a rumor that he was stunt double for Chris Farley back in the day. I don't know if that's true or not. Anyway, coming up next here, okay, so this is a guy who's done such good work for our veterans. His organization, the Wounded Blue, he works with veterans and does so much, as I said. Randy Sutton joining us now on the stage. Randy.
When I went to the police academy in 2005, one of the instructors told us that you need to be careful. Sometimes this job and this whole career, it'll chew you up and spit you out.
The Wounded Blue opened up a world that I didn't even know existed. I had no idea that other officers had been hurt, and felt the abandonment that I had felt. I thought it was just me.
That feeling is exactly right. You feel abandoned and alone. And it's nice talking to other officers who are going through the same thing. It makes you feel not alone anymore, but it also makes you want to fight.
The most important thing that the Wounded Blue does is to let injured and disabled officers, whether those injuries are physical or psychological or emotional, to know that they are not alone, that they are not forgotten. Since launching during Police Week in May of 2019, the Wounded Blue has touched the lives of thousands of law enforcement officers throughout the country. Led by a trained and experienced peer advocate support team, this nationwide organization currently handles nearly 100 calls per week and is comprised of both former and current law enforcement officers, many of whom have suffered injuries or became disabled in the line of duty.
It's a weekly, daily, even monthly challenge of what we're going to juggle, how to get the bills paid, how to even put food on the table. We have 3 boys.
Coinciding with the launch, the organization would become the primary subject of a new documentary film titled The Wounded Blue: Service, Sacrifice, Betrayed. The award-winning film received critical acclaim from the law enforcement community and brought to light the critical issues a law enforcement officer will face in the aftermath of these devastating and life-altering incidents. Then, in May of 2020, a 6-part docuseries titled Voices of the Blue premiered on YouTube, which featured the continuing stories of injured and disabled cops, bringing to light the truth about the crushing effects of post-traumatic stress, the epidemic of police suicide, and the disastrous financial implications law enforcement officers and their families will face as they attempt to cope alone. In Christmas of 2020, the Wounded Blue sent a team to South Carolina, where an injured officer who was abandoned by his agency after crippling mental and physical injuries was in danger of seeing his home's foundation crumble due to damage he could not financially afford to repair. Through generous donations and teamwork, the Wounded Blue was able to facilitate and oversee the reconstruction of the officer's home at a time when his hope was all but lost. There have been many partnerships fostered by the work the Wounded Blue continues to do for injured and disabled cops, one of which brought forth an entirely new level of exposure as NASCAR driver Josh Bilicki sported the Wounded Blue's logo and slogan on his car, showing the kind of meaningful support police officers need at a time where their heroic actions are often overlooked. And these are just a few of the highlights. Through ongoing charitable work, the Wounded Blue continues to serve our nation's law enforcement officers through a number of newly developed initiatives that will soon see chapters at the state level, as well as new programs that will see continued work with PTSD service dog breeders and trainers in an effort to bring these life-saving companions to injured and disabled cops who need them the most. All culminating in the first ever Survival Summit and Brothers in Blue Bash to honor the sacrifices of so many men and women who proudly wear the badge.
At the end of the day, I always can sit back and thank those who, from the Wounded Blue, who are there for me, and that gets me out of that dark place, you know what I mean? It kind of puts a sparkle in me to say, okay, get back up.
The biggest scar I have on my body from all my injuries is the one that's in my head. And a mental injury is just as bad, if not worse, than a physical injury.
I'd like other officers to be there for each other, to really back the blue, to make each other feel like they are really brothers and sisters in blue.
The American law enforcement officer is a hero. They are doing the most noble job that exists in America. They are touching the lives of people in every community in this country. They need our support, and they need your support. You can help them by helping the Wounded Blue.
this toast will mean something, please raise your glasses. To absent friends. I'm honored to be here. I was given this invitation, and I don't use the word honor very cavalierly. When I have the opportunity to talk about what is happening in America, what is happening to our law enforcement, I take that very, very seriously. But that being said, I do have a funny freaking story. All right, so I was a cop for 34 years. I started my career, I was 19. I was the youngest cop in the state of New Jersey. They had just changed the age of majority from 21 to 18, so you could drink, and you could vote, and you could become a cop, and I did, well, every one of them. But one thing you couldn't do, you couldn't buy ammunition, you had to be 21. So here I am getting ready to enter the New Jersey State Police Academy, one of the toughest academies in the country, and I had to ask my mom to buy my bullets for me. True story, she never let me forget it. But I love being a cop. I spent 10 years as a cop in the state of New Jersey, and I spent 24 years here in Las Vegas Metro PD, retiring as a lieutenant. In my career, ended on a dirty Las Vegas street. I was on patrol. I was watch commander that night. And when I was the watch commander, I would take a young patrol officer with me so that I could get to know my people and they could get to see their lieutenant actually knew how to do some police work every now and then. So I had this young man with me, never ridden with me before. And it's 2:30 in the morning, we're right in front of Bally's Hotel. And I'm talking to him just like I'm talking to you guys. And as I'm talking to him, I find myself talking slower and slower. And I knew right away that I was having a stroke. And I stopped the police car right in the middle of the road, Las Vegas Boulevard, and I turned to this young man and I said, "Get me medical, I'm having a stroke." And he looks at me, and he's wondering, is this the way Lieutenant screws with people? But he soon realized that it was the real deal. And I got out of the car to go around the passenger side in case he needed to get me to the hospital. And as I got out of the car, I was talking to him, and suddenly I'm speaking gibberish. And I know I'm speaking gibberish. I don't have any control of what's coming out of my mouth. And by the time I got around to the passenger side of the vehicle, I lost the ability to speak altogether. And then I lost the ability to move, and I crumpled to the pavement. And I lay there helpless. I can't tell you, I've been in some pretty scary stuff as a cop, but I was never more scared than that night. And you know, here's the thing, I wasn't afraid of dying. I was afraid of living like that. My last on-duty memory is laying there helpless, hearing the sirens coming. Guys get there, they surround me in a protective ring because tourists are walking by and taking my picture on the pavement, helpless. And my last on-duty memory is hearing one of my cops say, "If you don't get that camera out of his face, I'm going to take it off and stick it up your ass." And I remember thinking, that's the Metro I know and love right there. But that ended my police career, a career that I loved. And what happened next was something I never, ever expected. My own department turned its back on me and refused to pay my medical bills. And of course, by law, they have to pay my medical bills. It's in statute, of course, right? And I never expected anything like this. And I said, "Wait a minute, what do you mean you're not going to pay my medical bills? It's the law." And they said, "Well, yeah, it is, but we're not paying." They forced me to go to court. They forced me to spend a year. They ruined my credit. Bill collectors are knocking on my door. I go to see the sheriff who was I considered to be a compatriot of mine. I served him for 24 years, and I said, "How do you treat me like this?" And he said, Randy, this isn't personal. It's just business. It's just business. I retired. I won, of course. They knew I would. They spent tens of thousands of dollars of your money to fight me. Took a year. Left me bitter. Left me feeling forgotten. Left me feeling alone. Left me feeling abandoned. Now, I should tell you that I've done a lot of other things other than just be a cop. Who here has seen the movie Casino? Raise your hand. All right, well, you saw me. Towards the end of the movie, Sharon Stone was smashing her car into his car. And that's good memory. So I played a cop named Randy. It was a big stretch. So I've done a number of movies. I was in the movie Fools Rush In with Salma Hayek. Anybody remember that movie? Okay, so this is a true story. I gotta tell the whole story. So my part was I played a Hoover Dam police officer delivering her baby on the bridge at Hoover Dam. And I can legitimately say I was between Salma Hayek's legs for 3 days. Is that too off color? All right, so there's a point I'm actually trying to make here. So I've been in movies, I've written 4 books, I've trained police officers all over this country on a topic called policing with honor, how to survive your career ethically as well as physically and emotionally. And the reason I tell you that is not to brag, is to tell you that I was very, very visible in the law enforcement community. So when I retired, this was about the time when Facebook was really becoming a thing, right? Well, police officers from around the country started reaching out to me with these heartbreaking tales. Randy, I was shot. My chief never came to visit me in the hospital. They're not paying my medical bills. Not 1, not 2, but they started pouring in. Not because I could do anything, but simply because I was a recognizable face in the law enforcement community. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, hold on a second. There's got to be a resource for these men and women, because every single one of them, at the end of these tales of heartbreak, say the same thing. Randy, I feel alone. I feel abandoned. And I looked around and I tried to find resources for these men and women and found that no national resource existed. And when you hear this phrase at the end of a statement, Randy, I wish I died that night. At least I wouldn't be a burden to my family. It breaks your heart. Well, guess what? That resource exists now. We are the Wounded Blue. Thank you. And we are the National Assistance and Support Organization for Injured and Disabled Officers. I have a team of men and women, every one of them has been shot or stabbed or beaten or run over, but they've all been screwed up, they've all been screwed over, and yet they continue to serve. They continue to serve because they give a damn about not only their brothers and sisters, but they give a damn about this country. And that is something, my friends, that every single person in this room believes in. You wouldn't be here if you didn't love your country. And I'm not shy about saying it. I love America. And I'm going to fight for it in every way that I can, just as you are. If you want to help the Wounded Blue, you want to know more about us, text that number that's up there, 877-8100-911, and text the word blue, and then hit share contact. You'll know more about us. And if you want to talk to me more, I will be at the bar after this. Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you, Randy. That was really awesome. Randy, I have a question for you. Why didn't you arrest Sharon Stone at the end of Casino? Why did you let her take all that money? I'll never tell. Okay. I remember him in that movie. All right, coming up next now, without further ado, the chairman of the Valentine's Day Ball, Dr. Robert Madoff, and the director of Veterans in Politics, James Jonas. Gentlemen, come on up.
Not many things made me nervous because of the reason why I'm up here. I am a little nervous. First off, I just want to thank everybody very much for coming out. It really means a lot to all of us here at Veterans in Politics. I want to give special recognition, of course, to all of our veterans that are here this evening and those that cannot be, that are serving abroad. There's one in particular I want to recognize, though. He's a friend. He's a business partner. This individual has taught me to be fearless in the pursuit of excellence in everything I do in my life. And he has changed my life. I would not be standing in front of you today if it was not for this individual. So without further ado, I'll make it short because I'm already go to the bar team. So without further ado, I'm going to present the Tip of the Spear Award to Mr. Steve Sanson, President of Veterans in Politics, for his years of dedication, not only to his country, but also his community. Mr. Sanson, I know you're kind of shy, but come on up here. Expecting this, but you know something? I couldn't have put any of this on without our chairman, Dr. Robert Madoff. Dr. Robert Madoff has worked tirelessly putting this on. He's the one that picked the room, by the way, so just to let you know. But I usually give awards to different individuals at this type of event, and we do this every 2 years. So if you miss the event, there's not going to be another event until 2024. And the reason why we do that is because it's election year. The state and the county elections and the municipal elections are in even number of years, so that's why we do it. But there is one particular individual that stood out for me within the past year at Veterans in Politics. I don't have an award for him, but I think that I could do more just by speaking my heart. And this individual has worked tirelessly. He has a very good heart. He helps with all of our production of Veterans in Politics. He edits all of our videos, as you saw the videos that was on the teleprompter. And he's there every single week, filming and editing and making sure Veterans in Politics videos look the best that they could be. And I just want to give a recognition to Marcus Jonas. Where you at, Marcus? Come over here, Marcus. Marcus Jonas is the guy behind all those videos that we saw. And like I said, I don't have an award for Marcus, but one thing I could give you, Marcus, is my love. I love you, Marcus. Keep doing what you do. But with saying that, I just don't want to leave anybody behind. Jim Jonas here is my co-host on the show, and he's done an awesome job since 2007. And you'd be amazed, in 2007, I must have only had 2 arguments with Jim Jonas. That's it. Some people I argue with on a daily basis, but Jim, 2 arguments since 2007, that's unbelievable. But I just want to thank these guys for giving me this. I really appreciate this. I want to thank all the veterans. Let me see all the veterans again. Could all the veterans stand up? These are the men and women that protect us from tyranny. These are the men and women that sacrifice their lives for us. These are the men and women that allow us to be here today. And I want us on every Memorial Day and every Veteran Day, make sure we say, thank you for your service. Thank you guys. I hope you have a great night. The DJ Sassy Jazz, she's going to be doing a really good job. And she's going to make you go on the floor and rock your butt off. Thank you so much.
Yeah, just to conclude the program itself, I'd like to thank, first of all, naturally, all the guests, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Richmond and his ROTC group. Excellent job. I'd like to thank comedian Scott Muschet and Randy Sutton. We appreciated it. And, you know, I just want to take a minute of this crowd's time. I met Steve Sanson about 5 years ago. And, you know, you hear a lot of rumors and innuendos about him. And I'll tell you who this man is. About 2 years ago, he calls me up about 10 o'clock at night. And he says, listen, there was a fellow Marine that passed away. He's got nobody to pack his house. So I said, I can't get there until the next morning. Steve Sanson was packing up this man's belongings and trying to raise money for this his fellow Marine. And you know, as far as I'm concerned, that says a lot about who Steve Sanson is. You know, he tries to assist people, and he has a very unorthodox way of doing it, mind you. I got to tell you right now. And you know, we're very much similar. I do it in a more calmer way, and Steve actually, you know, does it in a little bit more exciting way. Let's put it that way. And you know, Steve is a wonderful gentleman. He's got a great wife, a great daughter, grandchildren, pardon me. And I just want to say thank you, Steve. It's been a whirlwind for the last 4 years, working with you. Let's put it that way. And as far as the Gala ball, you know, I'm a strong believer of the military and the police, and I could basically do anything for them. So again, I'd like to thank, as Steve did, all the military gentlemen and Randy is a retired police officer, and we take them for granted way too long. And as for the guests, I'd like to again thank you very, very much. You know, we enjoyed having you and trying to entertain you. And I think the rest of the evening is up to this. Oh, pardon me, we have an auction that's coming up right after I get off the stage. And there's some wonderful auction items over there. I don't know if any of you have had a look. And we're going to start the auction now. I think, Brian, can you come up here again? Sorry, Brian. Okay, I know you're right. But I do thank you very, very much for coming here.
All right, so as I mentioned earlier, there are so many cool items back there. I was taking a look, just great memorabilia, movies, all sorts of different things back there. And affordable too, and all the money is going to help our veterans and this amazing charity. So I ask you all at some point, because it's going to end in about 20 minutes or so, at some point, finishing your dessert, if you could just go back there, even if you're not going to buy something, just take a look. It's really cool. They have some amazing stuff back there. Now let's have a little fun. Let's finish eating our dinner and maybe even doing a little dancing. All right, thanks guys. Have a good night.